Huh? Oh, 5 minutes. That's fine.
You taught me how to play golf. Thank you.
Jailhouse game. Take the soup.
Right. Should be live.
Any moon pies today?
Moon pies. You know, I can't imagine why anybody want to be eating a pie that was made out of the moon. Why would you want to do that? Oh my goodness. We used to. Say it again?
This is green cheese.
Yeah, because that's fine. You know, I don't eat cream cheese. See? And there's no more green cheese on the moon. The man in the moon ate it all. You know.
Jack Frost.
Say it again?
Jack Frost. He was fishing on a half moon.
Fishing, yeah, I've seen that. There's a little video I would really like to get y'all to watch. And I can't remember who moved my cheese. You ever seen that? That's a really good little video. Good stuff. You ever seen the video Who Moved My Cheese?
No.
We need to look that up one day. I'm sure it's on YouTube. It's a really neat little video about change. Yeah. Who moved my cheese? About 2 mice and 2 little people running through a maze. It's only about 5 minutes long, but it's all about change. That's good stuff.
That would be good for us to watch it go up here in our step study when we don't have volunteers.
Yeah. Yeah, look it up and find it.
I think Goodwill's. What do you think you're going to say? Who's got
Did you give us some? Did you give us some sign-in sheets there?
Oh, slacking. I got you, daughter.
You're all neat.
I keep trying to make the book go into I just feel like, I didn't get to like be in here and like be part of it, but sometimes I give my notes in here when they come in. When I was in work,
Well, we're about to get started. We've got about 30 seconds.
You got everybody in here.
Looks like it. Got a good look.
We're missing one and he's got permission to lay in until later on. He's not full for what.
Well, be up here in group, I guarantee you he's gonna get hot if he gets up here. Oh, it's not all that bad this morning. Not too bad. I've got it. All right. I like to get started right on time. That way we're not early and we're not late, right? So I'm sure that everybody over at North is in their place and has their book. You got your book. Everybody got their book. Anybody brand new in here that doesn't have a book or anything like that? All right. So we've all got our books and we're in our place. Make sure that you sign in. Amen. Make sure that you sign in today. If you are a TAP client, make sure you sign in on TAP. We had somebody sign in on the wrong one the other day. We don't want to do that. Usually I finish one and then I go to the next one. And if you've got your name on the wrong one, I have to go in and do you individually, which is, not extremely hard, but it's not the way we ought to do it. So make sure your name's on the right one. Make sure it's legible so I can read it. I need to be able to read it. If I can't read it, okay, I need to print your name out beside it. If you can't read it yourself, guess what? Nobody else can too. Did you know that there is a law in the United States of America that you cannot tell a person what their signature is supposed to look like? If you want to just put a line for your signature, that can be your signature. That came out way long time ago. Remember when you watch those old movies and stuff and they say make your mark? That's, you can make your mark. But if you're one of those folks that make your mark, a lot of times I do, I do a lot of writing and stuff and my handwriting is not all that good anyway. So sometimes when I put my name down, it looks like I'm making my mark, but just print your name. Can't tell you how to sign your name, but we can ask you to print your name over on the other side of it. So what's our goal in this group today? Got to have a group goal. Now look, I do know that we're still talking about physical health, but how many of us realize that physical health more so go into your mental health as well? If your mind is not where it's supposed to be, that's going to get your physical health a little bit out of sync, right? So what we're going to be talking about, try to get us a little bit different because sometimes we need to change up just a little bit so that things don't get so boring or anything. Today we're going to be talking about the mind disease or the brain disease of addiction. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. So that makes our goal what?
Learn about brain disease.
to learn about brain disease. Now, see, people starting to make fun of some people here and all, but that's okay. But yes, that's our goal today, to learn a little bit more about the brain disease of addiction. Okay? And I know probably all of you have heard that before. All of you, everybody at both places have probably already heard a whole lot about the brain disease of addiction. But I'm going to tell you, I teach a group in here, and then the very next day I can ask you what I taught the day before, and nobody knows what I taught. So that's a good thing, because there I can just teach the same thing over and over again, and nobody will catch me for a long, long time. And finally somebody say, "Hey, I remember that." Okay, so at that point I can change topics, go on somewhere else. So everybody has their book. I know that over at North, everybody bought their book to class. And everybody in here has our book. What page do we start on? Page 21. We're always just looking at page 21. Why do we bring our books to class every time we have a group? Just to get us used to having this book with us. This is what we do. This is what we're going through. Now, we can go off of the book and we go off of topics sometimes, but we are working through this book. So this just gets us in the habit, and we're trying to build some good habits. Yes?
Without my tools, success, I would fail it.
Oh, yeah. When you said, without my tools to success, I'm going to fail at recovery. And that's true. And we need to take that to heart, right? If I have those tools, I need to use them. And I talk to people all the time who talk about their tools and all of that. I was talking to a young fella this morning who's a close personal friend of mine, and he's a real scholar when it comes to the Bible, and he was just spouting off all of the Bible verses. And that's so amazing. I think that's so awesome. I'm always impressed by somebody who can do that. But also the other thing that I see a lot of times is people who do that don't live that. Right? Right. Yeah. If you go down under the water and you're down like 40 feet down there and you got a breathing apparatus on your back, and you take that thing out your mouth and hang it on your back there and you don't use it, what's going to happen to you? You're going to drown. You're going to drown. So just like you were saying, if we have every tool that's in our bag here, all of our recovery tools, we've been in treatment 14 times, we got all of these tools but if we don't use those tools, they're worthless. Yes, sir.
I want to say a lot of people that does that.
Yeah.
Recite the Bible, they don't understand it.
Right. They got something to say, but they don't have anything to do. Okay. He said there's a lot of people that recite the Bible, and look, that's more sober into our rules. I know dozens and dozens of people, when I say what are the universal triggers, what are they going to say? People, places, and things. People, places, and things. And then you say, okay, you ready to get out of treatment? Yes, sir, I am. I'm ready. Today, I feel more ready, praise God, than I have ever felt in my life. Where are you going? Back to my mama's house. My brother lives there. My sister lives there. My brother-in-law and his wife live there. And we have 3 cousins who live there. And they all have their own business. They all sell drugs. But they're good people. They're good people. Yeah, okay, you're going to be, all of these, they're not going to work for you. So, it's a good thing. Now, I'm not blasting people who have memorized should have memorized. I was telling I ain't going to tell you his name. I was telling Mr. Mills this morning. I know a fella who has this memory where he can just remember, and he knows the whole Bible. And I've watched him preach and stuff like that, and he'll just stop and look down, and it's like he's reading. It's really amazing. I mean, that's amazing. I don't have that gift. I'm getting close. I'm still trying to learn the books of the Bible. Yeah. And I preach every week. But I have to leave it up to the Holy Spirit to tell me what to preach, because I just can't get to it. So if you have your book this morning, the point of all of that tirade is if you got it in you, bring it out of you. If you have it in you, you look, you got these tools that's going to help you stay in your recovery. You look at what you're going to do when you walk out of this place and put your tools into practice. Right? I have it in my home, 1, 2, maybe 3, 2 boxes full of tools. What do I do with those? Most of the time they sat in that box out in my barn and I don't do anything with them. There was a day when I used them, but I don't use them as much as I used to. So they're pretty much worthless. I'm thinking about trying to get my grandson to come get them, take them to his house because he'll use them, and I don't want to use them. So he can have them. Maybe he'll do something with them. But I'm not going to, so they're worthless. Now here on day 3, today is Wednesday, right? Today is Wednesday, so we're on the 3rd day of our little thing here on our chart. Remember, we have 4 things that we look at primarily in the program, but there are 5 different points on each one of those. And so today we're looking at preparing. Now, we looked at first my physical health is not in all of that good a shape, and but look, yesterday we said, look, I'm contemplating doing something about my physical health, right? I do know that there's something that I need to do, right? So in October, my wife and I are going on a pretty extended little camping trip, and she is starting to walk back and forth to try to get a little bit of something done before we leave, and so that's helpful. So if I'm contemplating, I'm thinking about doing something about my physical health, I need to do what? Something. Whatever it is, I need to do something. We see the guys working out here all the time. That's a really good thing. I went this morning, and I'm just about tore myself up. So today, I'm not moving very, very well, but that's okay. It's good for me because tomorrow I'll feel better. All right. So we need to do something. If we're not going to get out there and try to tear the fence down, then walk around the building, walk back and forth in the back and all that kind of stuff. Just don't walk out to the road. I don't want you walking out to the road. There's people out there and they want to kidnap you. We want you to stay. But today is preparing. I've been thinking about it, and a lot of the times this is problematic because sometimes we get stuck in the thinking about it mode. All right? I've had people tell me, well, I'm thinking about it. And then 8 years later, well, I'm thinking about it. Okay, your brain's still working, but your body's not. We need to, if we're thinking about it, we need to begin to do something about it. So I need to get unstuck from thinking about it and get to that place of preparing. You have actively thought about improving your physical health. Actively been thinking about improving my physical health. Does that mean I need to become an advanced bodybuilder? Does that mean I need to become one of those people who run those marathons? No. Look, a lot of us just doing anything, getting up, walking around, maybe do some little bit of exercise like side straddle hops or working your stomach a little, something would get us to a place where we're better than where we are right now. If we can move from here to just here, if we can do 10% better, that'll be better, right? It's not 100%, but it's 10%, and that'll be better than nothing. So look, we've been thinking about it. We've been actively thinking about doing something, but now we've developed or began to develop a plan toward improving my physical health. I've been thinking about it a minute. Now I'm going to get a plan. I'm going to get up 5 minutes earlier in the morning. If I can get up 10 minutes early, 5 minutes early in the morning, what can I do with 5 or 10 minutes? As far as exercising, what can I do with 5 or 10 minutes? Squats. I can do some squats if I wanted to. Do some push-ups. All of that stuff. I'm going to tell you, sometimes push-ups are hard, pull-ups are harder, but look, walking's not all that hard. So if we get up down there, we can walk down the hallway back and forth 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times. If it's raining outside, hot outside, cold outside, we can do something just walking up and down in here. That's going to help.
Stretches is really good.
Do some real good stretching, stuff like that. I do leg lifts every morning, every day. At some time during the day, I do 20. Right now, I'm up 27 on each leg, and then I sit in the chair and I do 27 with sitting in the chair with the leg lifts, and then the other type of leg lifts. I do 27 of each of those, and so after a while, that's about 150 of those things, and your stomach gets a little tighter and gets a little sore. I'm going to have a six-pack one of these days. You know, I had a guy tell me, he said, look, I don't have to work on getting a six-pack. I've already got a keg. And, but we want to get rid of the keg and get us a six-pack. So we're working on that. So we've got our goal. We've got all that. We've started signing in our sign-in sheets. We'll make sure everybody can read it and all of that kind of stuff. So here's the painting on the wall up here. What is this?
A busted. Just has brain disease.
He's got a real, this guy here, he has a real serious brain disease, right? And look, each and every one of us who are looking at this guy this morning, each and every one of us that's sitting here at South, and each and every one of us that's sitting over there at North, we all have that same brain disease as this old boy right here. And look, you can see that this is muddled up, messed up, and tearing him up. And these little things by the side, he's shaking and he's sweating and all of that kind of stuff. Have you been there? Yes, I've lived in that place a long time, and I'm not too sure I want to live there anymore. I want that brain disease to be cured, healed, and gone, right? Doesn't usually do that, though, does it? So we have to learn to do what? Keep it in remission. Get it to where we can live with it. Yes, sir?
I recognize that my disease is cunning and crafty and powerful.
Well, see all that? I recognize that the disease that I have is cunning and baffling, powerful. It is hard to deal with. If it wasn't hard to deal with, none of us would be here. There was a president's wife, and I think it was Miss Nancy Reagan, might have been her, that said she had this big old campaign to get people off of drugs. Y'all remember that? No, you're probably a little bit too young for that. But she got on television. She said, now y'all just stop. She was so sweet. Did that work? Well, no. If we could just stop, guess what we'd do? We'd be done stopped long time ago, because all of us have lost things and lost people and lost time and all of that stuff, over the last bunch of years that this stuff has been able to affect us, right? So we need to do something different. So here's the deal. We need to understand that it is a disease. Now, why is it important for me to know that this thing that is bothering me so badly is a disease? So you can get treatment for it. Yeah. Here's the deal. If it's anything other than a disease, then there's nothing I can do about it. If it's anything else, and we'll get to that in a minute. I got a whole bunch of stuff here I want to go over. But if we understand and if we buy into the idea that this thing is a disease, then I can get help for it. It's like cancer. Cancer is a disease. Is it curable? No. They haven't gotten to it yet. They haven't gotten that pill yet that says if you take this pill, you're cured. But it is treatable, and people do all sorts of different treatments for it and all of that kind of stuff, and they can get it into remission. I happen to have 2 friends right now that are suffering from cancer, and one of them's in really good remission, been in remission for 3 years, no problems at all. I have another who has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and they're just waiting on him to fall over dead. and he's in a huge amount of pain. But they're still, right now, they're still fighting the cancer. They're still working on the disease. How about HIV? It's the same way. You cannot cure it, but can you live with it? Nowadays you can. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. I know for a fact that you can live with it. We're going to be talking about HIV and all of this stuff toward the end of the week. But I know for a fact that you can live with it for 30, 40 years. You can have a family. You can do all of those kinds of things. I still don't want it, right? So I'm going to do the things that make it necessary, or do the things that make it possible for me not to catch it to start with, right? Same thing with cancer. I don't want it. I know you can live with it. I know you can get it into remission and all of that stuff, but I don't want it, right? So I'm going to do what? I'm going to do the things that make it possible for me not to get cancer. That's why when you guys go out there and suck sulfur down your throat, I don't do that. I don't use tobacco in any of its forms, and I don't, when y'all are out there smoking, it's not because I don't like you, it's because I don't like what you're doing. I mean, I'm not going to sit up there and breathe in the secondhand smoke and stuff like that, right? So I'm gonna do that. Now, this disease is the same as those diseases. So what it is a incurable chronic disease that's going to be with us for the rest of our lives, right? Is there any way possible for it to be taken away from us? Well, I happen to believe that God can remove anything. He can take cancer away from you. He can take HIV. He can whatever. God can do all of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to do what I can do to maintain this thing in remission, right? Right now I'm in remission, and I want to keep it that way. So here, what is addiction? What is it? Somebody said it. What is addiction?
Brain.
It's a brain disease. Here's the deal. Addiction is a disease involving continued use of a substance despite serious substance-related problems, such as loss of control over use, health problems, or negative social consequences. There's a question on the assessment that asks, have you ever done anything that caused danger to yourself or other people? Y'all remember that question? And I've heard a lot of people say, no, I've never done anything like that. And then you get over to somewhere else and you ask, okay, have you ever had a DWI? Oh, yeah. I got 3 of those. So do you see the disparity between, if you're driving drunk, then you're not only endangering yourself, you're endangering me, my grandkids, my dog, all of those kinds of people. Yes, sir?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yesterday's diagram, you drew a brain hemisphere, and you had a little mechanism that tells you
right,
even underwater. So yeah, what Jamie said. How does that affect the brain disease with this diagram? I know it all ties together somehow.
The mesolimbic system, yeah. We're gonna get to that part. That is actually the locus of the disease, and the locus means the point, the center of the reason for that disease. Let's go through this. We'll get to that. I appreciate the question. That's a good question. How does the mesolimbic system affect all of that? So here's some of the deals. Here's some of the signs of addiction. Here's some of the ways that I know that I'm addicted. Do you believe that anybody that's ever come into treatment would come into treatment and not be addicted? No. Now y'all see, y'all don't listen to it. Because remember we talk about outliers? There's always an outlier, no matter what. I know a guy that took a 45, put it right here and pulled the trigger. Did we go to his funeral? No, because he lived. He wears a cowboy hat way down here like this. And I told him, I'm talking to him, he's not really a friend of mine, but he's a guy that I met. And I told him, man, okay, you're the goofiest looking cowboy I've ever seen. He said, I look worse if I take it off. I said, oh, come on. He pulled his hat off and he's got this this crease right there in his forehead where just that bullet just plowed through his head. I don't know what happened. He had it like that. I think he tried to pull it back and it went like that. He was in the hospital a long time and all of that stuff, but 90% of the time, or more than 99.99% of the time, you put a 45 right here and pull the trigger, what's going to happen? Got to be some slow walking and some sad talking because you ain't going to be with us anymore. All right? That's what's supposed to happen there. But there's always outliers. So if this is what's supposed to happen, there have been people who come through treatment who really are not addicted. But those are few and far between. Most of us who come through treatment have tried a whole bunch of different times not to be, to get out of this by ourselves and have figured out we can't do it. So here's the deal. Here's how we know loss of control over the substance use. When one's not enough, wait a minute, one's too many and 1,000's not enough, right? Using more of the substance than we had intended. This is what your counselors learn, and this is why they ask you these questions. Difficulty reducing your substance use. And I have people tell me really interesting stuff. I had a fellow tell me, I know I'm not an alcoholic. How do you know you're not an alcoholic? I drink 10 to 12 beers a night just to help me sleep. But I can quit if I want to, and sometimes I stay off of the beer for a couple of days at a time. Okay. Deep, solid alcoholic, and convinced he wasn't one. Difficulty reducing the substance use, significant time spent obtaining, using, or recovering from the substance. Usually, it didn't take me any time at all to get my substance, right? I go down to the alcohol joint, and they had all I needed, and I could buy all I wanted. And it wasn't no big deal. As a matter of fact, the guy that was in there wanted to give me a break on the price sometimes, because I had to put my change and stuff together, and I'd be 15, 20 cents light. And he said, I'll take care of it. He's a good old boy. He helped me a lot. So, having cravings. What's a craving? Yeah, strong desire to use the substance. Yes, sir.
I get two different meanings on craving.
Miss, what's that lady? Now, Miss Charnell, I need to saw at you just 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've heard two different definitions for it. Some people say the obsession is thinking about it ahead of time. The phenomenon of craving doesn't occur until you've already taken it. And I also hear people use the term craving or thinking about it before you use it.
Y'all know Miss Charnell. That would be helpful. Y'all see me? You see me? That was all private and everything. Yeah. So, and I don't know, here it says, having cravings is a strong desire to use the substance, which speaks to me as before I used it. Before I used it. And I have had that. I am now on like day 7 or 8 in my recovery from sugar. I haven't had any sugar in the last 7 or 8 days, other than the natural stuff that's in everything that you eat. Sugar's in everything, But I haven't had any moon pies or any kind of gunk like that, So, and I'm feeling a little bit better, but there have been times I went to Market Basket over here the other day, and you know what Market Basket does? They sell half pies.
Yes.
And they sell just one big old slice of apple pie or pecan pie or I had a craving. I was over there looking for something healthy to eat, and I walked by that pie, and it said, "I'm healthy." It said, "I can do that. I can, eat me." And no, that ain't, no, I can't do that. So I have had some cravings. But the real big point is I was able to look at that thing and say, wait a minute, I'm in recovery. And how long do we practice our recovery? Forever, but how often?
All the time.
One day at a time. One day at a time. So I can tell my disease when it comes up and says, hey, you need to have a drink. I can say, okay, my limbic system's telling me, if you don't drink today, you'll die. I'll say, okay, I know I have to drink. We'll do it tomorrow. Because today, I got this recovery thing going on. And so today, I'm going to have to let you go. But tomorrow, that's another day. So I'm going to do this thing one day at a time. Because look, I'm going to live another 30 years. I'm going to live another 30 years. If I live another 30 years is almost insurmountable when I look at that and I say, look, 30 years and I won't be able to use for that whole 30 years. That seems like a long, long time. And so I'm not going to deal with that. What I'm going to deal with is this day. And if I look at I'm going to live for 30 years, I can't have another iced, what's those things called? Honey bun. I can't have another iced honey bun for 30 years. Okay, that's a little bit insurmountable. But if I'm not going to have one just for today, makes it a little easier, right? So here's the deal. Social occupational problems, not fulfilling major obligations at work, school, or home, or doing like Darnell and going to sleep in class. That's one of them. So he's probably an addict. Thank you for helping him. Thank you for helping him. Yeah. So some of the things like I can't get to school on time, I can't do my job. Y'all ever had issues with that? I've had a lot. I've lost jobs over that. Right? I've lost jobs. Gone to sleep on the job, and people came, and I was working at a service station. I went to sleep, and somebody came and stole 4 tires. All of the oil that was outside. They used to do that. They had the cans of oil. I was very young, so all of those cans of oil, and filled their car up with gas, and then left. And the boss man woke me up and said, you can join the ranks of the great unemployed. I said, all right, let's go do that. So something, we can tell that we might have a problem if those things are beginning to happen in my life. There's some social things that are going on in my life. Social problems caused by continued use. Getting drunk, going to church. Anybody ever done that? Yeah, that's embarrassing. Yeah. Decreasing or giving up important social or occupational activities. Just not doing the things you used to do. Just not doing the things you used to enjoy doing. The stuff I really like to do, because look, that's not on my mind anymore. What's on my mind is my drug. Where am I going to get my next bottle of booze? Where am I going to get this, that, and the other? Oh, Mr. Mott, Mr. Mills, take that to Charnel. All right. And then there's some risky use, some stuff that we'll do. Using the substance in situations where it's physically dangerous. Where would that be? Driving. That's the big one that comes, driving. If you're on top of a 3-story building that has and you're drinking, that's not a good idea either, right? But driving comes to mind first. Operating any kind of machinery. I saw a thing on YouTube that had something, a big old spinning thing, where this guy, there was a little something on it, and he reached to pull it off. Wasn't the brightest bulb in the bunch, and then all of a sudden it grabbed him, and he plop, 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 plop. And you want to laugh, but the guy's dead. It's hard to laugh at a dead guy. And but I assumed he was dead. I wasn't there, but somebody shut the thing off after a while, I guess. Physical or psychological or problems caused by continued use of the substance. Anybody have any physical problems? I had a lot of physical problems, psychological problems. I had a few of those. Malnutrition because I wasn't eating. When I'm using, I'm not eating. I lost my job. I'm living under house. Right? Those things are bad. Yes. Say it some more. Oh, yeah. Yeah, all sorts of things. Physical effects, we build tolerance. If we figure out we can use more, there used to be a thing where people would say, man, I'm good at drinking. I can drink good. I can drink all y'all under the table. Okay. First off, I don't want to be under the table anymore. And when you're doing that, you're building tolerance. Is that a good thing? What does it mean when you're building tolerance? Yeah, you can use more, but what's happening to your body as you build tolerance? You're becoming desensitized and your liver is breaking down. You can use more and more and more of it, and at some point it's going to level out, and then it's going to start going back down where you use less and less and less, and then you croak. Because that's when your liver is breaking down. The use of alcohol and or drugs will destroy your liver. What's your liver? Filter. It's a filter. And so after a while, you get cirrhosis of the liver. What's that? That's scarring on your liver, which keeps it from being a filter. Then after a while, it gets big old globs of deposits in it, and that keeps it from being a filter as well.
That's where your eyes turn yellow.
That's when your eyes turn yellow. That's when you get jaundice, and it could be. Yeah, you could have jaundice because of that as well. So these are some of the things. If these things are happening to you, and if you quit using, you have physical issues like withdrawal issues. Right? I remember when I first said, "Well, I don't want any more of this at all anymore." Guess what happened? I got all of these things, and people say, "Why are you still puking? You don't have anything in your system at all." Well, I looked at some water, and that made me puke. Those were some pretty bad days. So all of those things, to have those things, you have to know at that point in time there may be an issue with me and that drug. So we need to know what that is. And then here's a few facts for us. I have a whole bunch more, but we have plenty of time. So y'all, there'll be a test afterward. Addiction is a disease. These are just some additional facts. Addiction causes changes in the brain structure and functioning. You see this brain? Do you think it's been changed? Yeah. The use of drugs and alcohol changes your brain's function and its structure. Which drug causes the most change in your brain? That's methamphetamines, he said. Who else has another guess? Alcohol is another one. What else? What is it? Nicotine. Nicotine is a bad one. Yeah, what else? Marijuana, the man said. He was, look, that's a daring individual. Right here in the bunch of these people, he stood up and said, marijuana don't do that. Marijuana is the one that makes its own neurotransmitter pathways in your brain. It changes the whole structure of your brain. That's why if you have 50 people in the room, 25 of them use marijuana and 25 of them use all other types of drugs. The people over here that use all those other types of drugs will tell you, this drug destroyed my life, took my family, these people over here using marijuana, they have the same issues as these people, but they'll defend the drug to the death. I don't know what happened to that girl, but it wasn't, no, marijuana ain't bad for you. As a matter of fact, it's good for you. You can use it to treat stage 4 cancer. You do. Yes, we do. Yeah. So when did you get cancer? Yes.
LSD.
LSD. See, Yeah. I, I was going to say something, but I changed my mind. I was going to say, we already got to the worst one, but so you probably so that's all right though. It's a disease. It changes the structure of your brain. Here's the deal. They all change the structure of your brain. They do some damage to your brain. Marijuana just happens to be the only one that does that makes its own neurotransmitter pathways. What does alcohol do to you? It does kill brain cells. If you use alcohol steadily every day for like 20, 25 years, what does it do?
Make you stupid.
It does make you stupid.
Wet brain.
And what does it do?
You end up with a wet brain.
It gives you what is wet brain?
When even when you're not intoxicated, you still feel like it. You still have symptoms of being intoxicated.
Yeah. Here's the deal. If you use alcohol, and look, all drugs will do this to a certain extent, but alcohol does it on a deeper level. If you use alcohol for 20, 25, 30 years, it will actually shrink your brain up to about 20% of its mass. So if you've been using alcohol all of that many years, your brain has actually shrunk by 20%. That's a big deal. Okay? So think about that. You think that you are as smart today if you've been using alcohol for 20, 30 years as you were when you began? No. No, you got about a 3-pound brain over here, and at this 20% of that is gone. That's about 6 ounces of your brain just gone. It also, this is a little bit, what's the word? When you're about to say something nasty, what's the word? It's a little nasty. It's a little nasty. Little tender. It also, in men, it will shrink your stuff. Yeah.
Libido.
Yeah. It will also shrink your manhood and all of that stuff. And look, here's the deal. You should be concerned about it at one end or the other. Something should concern us about that. What it does too, by the time that has shrunk, by the time your brain has shrunk by that 20%, your liver has broken down. And as your liver breaks down, it can no longer filter. So what it does is it takes that stuff that it's trying to filter, the alcohol and the drugs and all of that kind of stuff, and it turns it into a type of acid. And it puts that acid into your bloodstream. And that acid flows up through your bloodstream, and there is now this place in your brain up here in your skull that is empty, so it loosens it looses it into that area. So now your brain is smaller. Somebody take that paper from him. Now he's got that paper. The whole class is going, what? Somebody take that from him before we have to do something drastic. Y'all pass it. Yeah, pass it on down, and let Miss Kim take that. Pass that on down and do something. Anyway, that's what happens when you're doing homework and stuff in group. And then you're trying to wave down your counselor as they're disrupting the group as they go through.
Sorry, Dr. T.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt the group, but
I didn't mean to disrupt. I apologize.
Thank you. So here's the deal. Addiction causes change in the brain's structure and functioning. We were talking a little bit about that as that stuff gets up there in your brain, your brain is floating in an acidic fluid, right? So when you do this, what happens? Your brain goes back and forth. Your brain's floating in that fluid. That's what we call wet brain. And if you bump into the wall or somebody slaps you or something like that, you can get a TBI. What's that? Traumatic brain injury. Just because you tripped or something. Yes? Of course it does. He said, does it Does it mess with your equilibrium? Yes, it causes a thing called ataxia. What does that mean?
Axis, which is,
Yeah. It means you stumble around like you're drunk. That's what ataxia means. And so, after that period of time, you're in pretty bad shape. And so, you need to know that how you're going to stop all that. How are you going to quit it? How are you going to keep that from happening?
stop drinking.
Oh, well, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, stop drinking. Stop using whatever drug it is that we use. See, what we think is, hey, I'm using this drug, and it's making me feel, different. It's changing my mood. And we think that this drug that we're taking that changes our mood just a little bit, makes me feel a little bit more better looking, makes me feel a little bit taller, makes me feel a little bit more outgoing, is not going to do anything to our brain except change our mood. That's not true. As it's changing our mood, it's changing the structure of our brain, and it's messing us over really badly.
When we was at Unity, when I was at Unity, Miss Mary put on a video about what it does to the brain, what
Yeah.
spots inside the brain, and certain drugs actually kills the brain and it stops the brain from actually working.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest ones that I see is very, very, very deep. The one that messed with the brain most and killed the brain most that I have seen was methamphetamine. That have been higher spectrum. I don't know why, but it's
Okay.
Dr. G, what I've learned in my addiction, that the use of cannabis, the reason that a person's eyes get bloodshot red is because their brain is weak.
Huh? Okay. I don't know. I haven't heard that. I don't know that that's a fact, but they're talking about he is of the opinion that methamphetamines is, one of the ones that's going to do all of that stuff. And we learned over here that maybe cannabis will make your brain bleed. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about either one of those, but neither one of them are good. So it is not caused. Look, addiction changes the brain structure and function, and it's not caused by poor willpower or character flaws, right? How many people in here have character flaws? Okay. I was waiting on Darnell there. He was way slow coming. That's one of his character. That's one of his character flaws. We all have character flaws, but look, that addiction is not caused by character flaws. It is the character flaw maybe that made me continue to use until I became addicted, but that's not what caused me to be addicted. Addiction can grow slowly and isn't always easy to see. My addiction grew kind of slowly. I didn't know I was addicted until I woke up one morning and I was hurting so badly. Man, what in the world? My dad started me drinking moonshine when I was 8 years old. My little brother was 5. So by about 12 or 13, I knew where the stuff was, and I went and got it. My little brother and I used to walk around and pick up bottles when people would throw out the booze bottles. And, there's always something left in the bottom of that booze bottle. We'd pour them all together. And before you know it, you had a whole bottle of booze. Who knew what that was? And 14 different types of booze and spit and slime and sweat and whatever was in there, but we drank it. Yes.
I didn't know you were like an alcoholic.
Well, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm also addicted to moon pies. Thank you very much. But I'm working on it. So it can grow, but many people with addiction continue to function in some parts of their lives and have problems in other parts. What do we call those people? A functioning alcoholic. Is a functioning alcoholic any less an alcoholic? No, I know. But they have issues in the rest of their life. They may be able to go to work, and look, I worked a long time, and still I worked a long time when I was a mechanic. I worked a long time when I was a counselor. way back in the day. See, I wasn't always a drug counselor. I was a person-centered counselor as well, and I went to sleep in my office, drunker or skunk. So they can do it in some way. Relapse means returning to regular substance use after a period of sobriety. A lapse, on the other hand, is an isolated incident. Can you start back after you have lapsed? Yeah, you can. So what else did they call that?
Off the way.
A slip?
Slip.
Some people call it a slip. Relapse can happen at any point during recovery, right? We can relapse. I have seen people, know people who leave treatment, relapse on the way home. I have seen people leave treatment, and they're people who picked them up out front, brought them something to drink, something to use on the way home. I know of a fellow who had 30 plus years of recovery, and his wife got into it. He left her, relapsed, bought a truck, bought a boat with his 401k, quit his job, all that stuff. So it doesn't matter. You can here's the deal. That's why we go one day at a time. I've been sober a minute, but I will tell you this. I'm looking at that. That thing's always out there. It's like a bad dog. You got to keep your eyes open. I'm not afraid of dogs at all. But if I walk out here and there's a dog out there, I know where he is and what he's doing. And if he comes running at me, I'm going to figure out which way I'm going to have to step to knock this thing down. Not that I mean dogs or hate dogs or anything like that, but they got teeth and they'll bite you. And my addiction is the same way. It's right out there behind that tree, that biggest one. And if I walk out there, what do?
Give it plenty of space.
I give it a lot of space and I look at that tree. My addiction comes out from behind that tree. What am I going to do? I'm coming back in here. I'm going to run. I'm going to do what I need to do to stay away from that. I'm not going to do that. So, our addiction is a disease. Relapse can happen at any point. Those who are in recovery are at heightened risk during periods of stress. When do we not have any stress in our life?
You're dead.
At our funeral. Yeah, there's no stress there. I went to a funeral just not too long ago, and one of my wife's uncles passed away. I went by and looked at him in the coffin, and he's laying there in the coffin. And I said, well, here you are, worthless, piece of human flesh. He was just worthless. So what did he tell me? Nothing. He didn't say anything. He just lay there, man dead. So I could say anything I wanted to. He's bigger than me, and I had to wait till he was dead. But once you're dead, you're out of the stress thing. But until then, there's going to be stress bombs and stuff that we have to watch for. So what do? There's all sorts of individual therapy. You can go see Miss Sierra. You can go to group therapy. You can come in here. You can go to AA. You can do all of that kind of stuff. And there's even some medication that you can use that will help us get past all of that stuff, right? All right. Okay. Now, see, y'all thought that was we got a whole bunch. I got 40 more pages. This is my stuff here. So that was other stuff. So we just now getting started. Alcoholism is an addiction to the drug ethanol. And I wanted y'all to know that because here's the deal. We separate alcohol and drugs. Why do we do that?
One's legal.
One's legal. One's legal. The others are not legal. Most of them are not legal. Cocaine is a legal drug. Why is cocaine a legal drug?
Medicinal purposes?
Yeah, we use it for what? I don't know what that means. Heart? No, we don't use it for the heart. We use it for eye surgery. We use cocaine to do surgery on your eye and all of this stuff. It's very pure cocaine. It's nothing like you're going to ever have. But yeah, it's the good stuff. You know, the stuff you get is not like that. But alcohol is, and if you're an alcoholic, you are addicted to the drug ethanol. So alcohol is a drug. So we don't have to separate them. But we do because, like you said, alcohol is legal, socially acceptable, and all of those kind of thoughts. Now, here, look, some people have changed this belief, but I still believe this. All alcoholics are addicts, and all addicts are alcoholics. Why is that important for us to know? Say it to me again.
They do the same things to you.
They do the same thing to you.
The phenomenon of crazy.
The phenomenon of craving is the same. And here's the big thing that I want us to know here, because it happens to a bunch of us. I'm a cocaine addict. I'm off cocaine. I'm going to go back out into the world, and the first thing I'm going to do is have a nice cold beer because I don't have any problem with alcohol. No. There's a thing called cross addiction. If you're addicted to cocaine, you're addicted to alcohol. And if you use that alcohol, it's going to take you where? Cocaineville. Yeah, it's a vehicle right back to Cocaineville or Methamphetamine-ville or Marijuana-ville or whatever ville you lived in, right? It'll get you there. So here's the deal. What drug is it that we have to stay off of to stay in our recovery? All of them. All of them. All of them. We can look. We have, if we're serious about our recovery, we have to get out of here and never use another drug of any type. Right? I have my hearing aids in, and I can hear a whole lot better with them. I have my telephone off or silenced, so when it goes off, you can't hear it, but it goes off in my hearing aids, and it's like right there in your brain going, it's terrible. Yeah, so I have to cut that off. So these terms are interchangeable. So we need to know if you're going to go out and have a beer, you might as well know that you've just relapsed. You've relapsed. Okay? So why is relapse not acceptable? 50% of the people who relapse go right on back to their drug of choice and their lives are ruined. 50% of those people die. Suicide, homicide, something happens to them. Yes?
I was saying that I would like to know why is it that the disease in my brain, no matter what, it can be the wind blowing, happy day, or whatever, to make me crave, make me go back to it. I wonder why.
Well, because you're addicted. And you have, like you were talking about earlier, the mesolimbic system is in there telling you, if you don't use, you will die. And so when we see it, we feel good, we want to celebrate. If we feel bad, we want something to help us get out of that bad place. So everything turns into a trigger for me. Everything makes me want to use because I'm an addict and I have this strong need to use. Yes?
I thought it was because I was searching for the release of dopamine in my mind.
Well, that's what addiction is. Yeah. He said it. He thought it was because he was searching for that release of dopamine, and it is that. But anything in the world can be a trigger for you. So we need to be able to watch that. That's why we say, look, the universal triggers are old people, places, and things. Think about that. Think about old people, old places, and old things. What is not covered under that? What in the world is not covered under those three things? Thoughts, perhaps? Most of the time, everything is covered. All the people that you used to fool around with, all of the things that you used to do, all of the places you, everything. That's everything. Now, maybe your thought life would be a little bit different. I know that I start sometimes thinking about stuff that I shouldn't think about. So you need to have a way to do some thought stopping, and we'll talk about that at some place. Look, all of these addictions have the same mechanism. We have addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, addiction to gambling, spending, sex, food. They all have identical factors, behaviors, motivating factors, and escapism. These are essentially interchangeable. Somebody eats all the time. If they're addicted to food, it's the same. They are escaping. They're having comfort food, but getting way too much comfort. We need to get to the place where we eat to live, not live to eat. Right? Right? I want to get all blowed up and everything like. So, they are about the same. So when we get back, we're going to look at substance abuse is our society's greatest health concern right now. And what is the one drug that it causes the most health concern? No. Yes, nicotine. All right, we're going to take a 15-minute break. So back in here about 15, 16 after.
Have any of you guys yeah, I remember that
Great. Class one. That's a class one. David, you go back there. They just turn around. You put up, bring it on, two right. That was
Right. Oh, is that sample? Okay, yeah, so you better not try to put it. I'll be agreeing on that.
everybody else. You know, I saw him. I know, like a half hour or so ago. He was looking for a peanut. I was like, I was wondering if he had slipped out to his therapy. He told me this morning what time his therapy is, and I said, "This is sweet." And Brian, it was a we found it. We found. Okay, for your therapy?
Yeah.
All right.
I have a therapy.
Huh?
It's terrifying.
Jim has an go out.
bathroom. Not physical therapy.
Mental therapy. Making stuff up. Like, they do these AAC. They don't even have the name of the person, you know. So we all have our AAC versus 7:30. That's like I was here. So we discuss what we celebrate. I think this is why I get stuff.
What's that?
Done out.
Yeah.
I just noticed that.
Now I'm done for there, man.
You're all like that.
Two shirts. It's a little sentimental. So I was just like, I was disabled.
I know it's been like, you know, I do so many, and then because we do kind of things repeat on the cycle, especially with things are over with these little things.
Can't be back on the session.
Will it be session on the other day?
It will mean it keeps from when one of them get lost, you know, because it is easier. It is. I didn't do kids sounds so weird. Drop the trash can. But it's easier to go in and do the tap and they just it's together because I'll type it up and then I'll copy and paste it.
Put it back here. She should make him. I said, he just do it in a day. Because he looked at me, he come this way, looked at me, he know I was saying, let him out, let him let him out. That's what's slack. Put it back there. Please put it back. This is my right.
Robert is the
Right.
I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but I'm all for it too.
I mean,
Like the stuff is fun.
that's what I was asking.
I know, and then I was talking to Donnell, and
He looked at me.
we
He
did.
said, just pick it up, put it on his bed. He didn't put it back. He didn't throw it over there. He know I can pick up this up and that. You know what? So she should make him.
I mean, that's wrong. That's like how much your back there, that's trash.
Yeah.
It has to be back there.
That trash bag, and then the little trash
That
bag.
man had, look,
It ain't like it was a big problem.
he looked at me just like this. And then he went to walk this
You
way.
know what?
And he stepped back. That's why I looked to see if anybody was here.
I'm gonna sit right here so I don't forget. Cause if I, Kendrick's,
He took that back there.
come on and put it in here.
And I just got the whipping room this morning. That one.
And then I didn't even pay attention because me and Darnell were talking.
It's time to take
And then
accountability for your own actions.
Exactly.
Don't do it, Joe.
You're doing something more. Look, Darnell was telling me that's not your Mr. Jackson. You know who you want to be. I need to look. That's just him. You know? Now, some of the other stuff you do, like fabricating things and coming off, like that, I don't know. And he's, I said, I wouldn't even like, doing without seeing you say, Mom, or do you? I said, no, don't, try to put on things that are like, don't try to wear a mask in yourself. As well, but it's causing I feel like it is so very good.
I think that
Say something.
I have to say something.
Where I'm at.
I understand. But it's what they do, but it's what it's the way.
My word. Okay.
I will say. I'm not happy with what I am saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm always patient. There's so many times that guys come in here, and the first couple of weeks, it's like, what am I going to do? Other people are like, I'm like, how long are you here? How many days are you here? And it works out. You know what I mean?
Well, I know that you did that. I'm waiting.
But a lot of times y'all work those things out. Or they get worked out, y'all. Y'all become different beings and you work and walk in the door. Lord, coaching.
It'll take a few weeks for you to dry out.
I get the oil out. I think I might have my purse I can get at church Sunday. I like mine. Frankincense purse. I love this smell of frankincense.
See, the reason why I keep my
Forget it. He gonna get his trash. It's done. Someone gonna come here. I always, that's so like, cleaning it all, working for. And then I always put a line, I'm like, no, I'm putting me first. And I'm like, you see me, you hear me. But I had to get somebody to think I would make a home part. And you're like,
At 26.
come on, you hungry today.
All right, looks like it's group time.
I'm like,
All righty then, it is group time. One of the things that we need to understand is that when it's group time, it's group time. We're talking about addiction being a brain disease, and we need to understand, one of the things that we need to know is that addiction is the number one public health problem in the United States today. Addiction is the number one public health problem in the United States today. Now, there are, and look, this is just an estimate, but it's a pretty good estimate. There are between 15 and 25 million alcoholics in the United States today. That may be a low number. There are between 4 and 8 million cocaine addicts. And again, that could be a low number. There are about 3 million heroin addicts. And again, that's a number that fluctuates. They neglected to look at any other drug. We have to know that there are a whole lot of methamphetamine addicts out there. Lots and lots and lots. I know lots and lots of methamphetamine addicts. Yeah.
I say it's probably going to be higher.
It could be because people have, that's really gone through the roof. Yes.
How many did you say?
How many what?
I meant that.
Meth addict? It didn't say. It did not say. It didn't give us one on methamphetamine. It didn't give us one on cannabis. So I don't understand that. I think they were just giving us a taste of what that was. So addiction disorders, these are the things, it's society's greatest health concern right now. And addiction disorders affect 40 to 70% of hospitalized patients. People who are in the hospital today between 40 and 70%. You see that great big old stretch there because they really that's hard to compartmentalize. It's hard to get it into any kind of number that's correct. So 40 to 70% of the people who are in the hospital today are there for addiction problems, even if it's not identified as that. Sometimes, people go to the hospital because they have they have cirrhosis of the liver or something like that, and they know that it comes from they've been drinking alcohol for 40 years, and I have cirrhosis of the liver. Okay, there's other people who are in the hospital today because they had a car accident. And they put on their thing, they're there for trauma from a car accident. But they were drunk when they had the accident. So, it doesn't get there right. So there's 30 to 45% of patients that are being seen in primary care clinics are there because of alcohol or drugs or psychiatric things that are caused by that. Up to 70% of patients with psychiatric illnesses, these would be codependent people, not codependent. Yes.
You're going too fast. I'm trying to write it down.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going too fast, so now I will start talking.
30 to 40% primary care.
Yeah, primary care, like going to the clinic down here. 30 to 70% of patients seen in primary care settings. Up to 50%. Up to 70% of patients with psychiatric illnesses. Most patients, the addiction disorder remains undiagnosed and untreated. So up to 70% of those people who are going into a mental health hospital or something like that, the fact that they also have another problem, have something else going on, have an addiction problem or a drug problem or something, that's underdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. How many people know that a lot of people are going to see their GP because of problems that we have with drugs and alcohol? Lots of people are doing that. How much training does the normal GP, the average GP have in that? They do have some training. Too many doctors regard addiction as a moral problem. They're not trained in that. You can't blame them. They see these guys coming in all the time, being beat up, doing all of this kind of crazy mess, being in car accidents and getting shot and all that kind of stuff, and they're all drunk. They see them, that's a moral issue. These are just low-life people. So they are not trained in that. So they have 1%. Now get a hold of this. You have to go to school many years to become a doctor. You go to become an MD. You have to have 4 years of biology, and then you have like 3 years of medical school, and then you go into residency, which is usually, it's different residencies, lengths for different specialties, but usually a GP's got between 5 and 7 years of residency. And so, they're there all of that kind of long time. How long do you think a counselor has to be in residency?
No more than 18 months.
No more than 18 months?
240 hours.
240 hours. 4,000 hours.
Yep.
If you're going to be an LCDC, you have to be in residency. That means here working as a CI. Everybody here that works here as a counselor is a CI. They're still in school, right? And they have to be in that residency for 4,000 hours. How long is 4,000 hours?
How many are you doing for 6?
About 2 years. About 2 years, yeah. So, but these guys, they get 1% of medical school curriculum applies to addictive disorders. 1% of their curriculum. 100% of Miss Charnel's curriculum applies to addictive disorders. 100% of Miss Casey's, 100% of theirs applies to addictive disorders, right? 1% of your medical doctor's curriculum applies to addictive disorder. So they have a failure to adequately screen, and they usually believe that interventions are ineffective. Do interventions work? Yeah.
I say yes if you really truly apply yourself.
What's the percentage of interventions that work?
15.
15%? Anybody
I
else?
say 3. I say it's very smart.
Very small?
No.
Anybody else got a?
I say 5.
It's
I say 3.
What did you say? 15 to 20?
3%.
20%? Did you give it a little bit?
No, 3. Okay. It's all about how to treat it. I would think.
Inter-
Success rate.
Interventions that are done correctly are 100% effective.
Done correct.
Does that mean, look, does that mean that when you do an intervention, the person gets off drugs and alcohol and change their life around and become a minister and all of that? No. What does that mean?
They're seeking help to do it.
They know how you feel.
Right.
They know what you're doing to them. That intervention is letting them know where they are, how the family feels, all of that stuff. So it's 100% effective in that area. Okay? So it may not ever help them get off drugs or alcohol, but that doesn't measure the effectiveness of the intervention. So we need to know that about the cost. It is the most costly thing. Alcoholism and substance abuse cost a whole bunch of stuff. Drug abuse kills 24,000 Americans every year. Some way or another, 24,000 people die from drug abuse. The monetary costs are an astounding. This goes all the way back to 1992. That was a lifetime and a half ago. But in 1992, law enforcement, auto accidents, crime, lost productivity cost taxpayers about $246 billion. What do you think? $246 billion. Billion. So if you go and win the lottery, you can pay it down to $245 billion. Yeah. So what do you think it might be today? It's triple that.
I say the big.
It's triple that. $700 billion. $700 billion. Alcohol accounts for the biggest part of that at $600 billion. $600 billion. The remaining $150 billion is attributed to the use of all other drugs. Everything else costing $150 billion, but alcohol, $600 billion. Direct and indirect cost of alcohol and drug abuse consume 3.7% of the U.S. gross domestic product. Alcohol and substance abuse cost $600 billion in annual absenteeism and lost productivity at work.
That's the one.
1 year. $600 billion. And that's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's from people just not coming to work, or when you do make it to work, what do? Yeah, you goof off, you don't look. I will tell y'all this. In November, I'll be 72. There are days I don't feel all that well. When I go work out and stuff, I felt good all day long. Now, sometimes it tires me out, and I don't feel all that well. When I don't feel well, I don't do as good a job, I'll go sit in my office sometimes, and when I'm in my office, I'm doing notes and doing all of that kind of stuff. I got stuff lined up all day long today to do. But when I'm not feeling well, I don't do as good a job. You know, that makes sense? I mean, you're the same way. So if I come to work, even if I do make it to work, I don't do as good at work because I'm hungover. I don't do as good as work because I'm still a little bit drunk. You know, and so it does that. So I don't want to look at that because that don't make sense. So the best way to think about addiction, I want us to look at addiction in a little bit different way. Addiction is just not me wanting to use the drug all the time. It's a multifaceted disorder. This is not just a one thing disorder. Only one aspect of which is the compulsive use of the addictive substance. So what does the word compulsive use mean? Or compulsive, what does that word mean?
Spur of the moment.
Spur of the moment?
No, can't control it. Yeah.
Control it?
You have a compulsion, internal drive to do so.
You have an internal drive to use it. Yeah, our mesolimbic system is driving us to use the drug, right? It's making us think we're going to die if we don't get our drug of choice. And here's the deal. If I think I'm going to die if I don't use some cocaine, what am I going to do? I'm going to use some cocaine. I'm not going to die. My life is crappy. I'm addicted to this stupid drug, and I've lost my job, and I've lost my family, and I've lost my home, and I've lost my car, but I still have 2 lines of cocaine, and if I don't use those 2 lines of cocaine, then I'm going to croak. I'm going to use those 2 lines of cocaine. So I have to get to the place where I can push back on my own system that is trying to keep me alive. I have to recognize that my limbic system is at times a liar, right? Yeah. Look, it is what's keeping me alive. It is what's making me breathe. It is what's making me eat. It is what's making me have sex when it's time to do that. It is what's making me live my life the right way. But it also is stupid. My limbic system is stupid. And so we have in our bodies what's called a stasis. And that stasis means I have dopamine, serotonin. I have these things in there that I have to have in the right order in order to live correctly. So when I start using cocaine, I start using alcohol, I start using whatever I'm using, then I make a false stasis in there. And when that portion of my stasis begins to go down, then my body believes I'm going to die. And since your body cannot make alcohol, it cannot make cocaine, it tells you have to get some from an outside source. And if you don't get it, the stasis is going to fail and you're going to die. So it's stupid. It is. Look, you have 3 brains, right? This brain is your thinking brain, right? That's the newer brain that God put in there. That's the new brain. That's your limbic system is a primitive brain. It's your number 2 brain. It's way primitive. And all it does is make sure all these things happen, right? It's making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. Your 3rd brain, where's it? No. Your 3rd brain is right here. It's it's right there. It's your what's it called? Can't think of the name of it. It's what happens when you get older. It is your brain stem. Right back here, the brain stem. Your brain stem tells your body to do a few different things. It controls how you feel some things. It controls the feelings in your legs and stuff like that. So that's your 3rd very primitive brain. So it's stupid. All it knows is that I need to do this. All of your limbic system knows is I need to breathe again. I need to breathe again. I need to keep the stasis right. Make some more dopamine. Make some serotonin. Make some GABA. Take some alcohol. Get some cocaine. If you don't, you'll die. So when your limbic system tells your body to make some serotonin, your body makes some serotonin. But it can't make alcohol, so it says, oh, go find some alcohol. So if you don't, you're going to die. Stasis is going to fail. So that's what addiction is. And why do we get addicted? Is it a lack of willpower? We'll talk about that. We all know, or we all ought to know, that it takes an act of willpower for me to start using, doesn't it? It was me. I'm the one that went and had that drink. I'm also the one that had that second drink, or maybe that third drink, or the fourth. I'm the one that kept drinking until I got to the point where I couldn't quit drinking. Right? So that part of willpower, that I did. And it does take a little bit of willpower for me to make the decision that I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to use anymore. Right? It takes a little bit of willpower to do that. But we cannot just by willpower stop this thing. If we could, like we said earlier, we would do that. Many alcoholics and active addicts are extremely successful. And without application of discipline and diligence, any success would not be possible. There's a lot of people who are millionaires and billionaires and got really good jobs and all of that kind of stuff. So they have really good willpower, right? They have that ability to know this is what I want to do, and then they go do that, right? So if it were willpower, those people would be able to stop using, right? Because they've already exercised their willpower in so many other ways. But here's the deal. If you think, and I've had people tell me, if they wanted to stop, they could. And that's, I'm from Mississippi, and that's how they talk over there in Mississippi. If they wanted, and Miss Kim from Alabama. They don't talk like that in Mississippi. She talked like Alabama. My cousin was from Alabama. That's why we're going to Alabama. And they talk. You were talking about slowing down. Alabama people talk so slow that they change the meaning of the word before they ever get it out. Yeah, they're real slow. So if you think that willpower can stop a disease, this thing we have is a disease. The next time you have a case of the diarrhea, try stopping it with willpower. Just ain't gonna poop on myself. Just not gonna allow it. Okay. Do that, like that lady said. Well, just say no. So when that urge hits you, will just say no. It's not going to work, is it? If you've never been in that place where the urge just hit you, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have, you do know what I'm talking about. And there's no way to stop that, right? I mean, you have to go to the restroom, and that's what that is. And that's the same way this is. It's not about a lack of willpower. And, one of the things, and I've had people tell me, I've had family members tell me, we're fed up with him, we're fed up with her. Why? Well, if they wanted to quit, they would. Now, there's some truth in that. There's some truth in that, because I have to want to quit to get myself on the road to recovery, don't I? I mean, I have to really, really want to quit if I'm going to do the work to quit. I have to have some willpower to go in that direction, so there's some truth in that. But what they think is that if I wanted to quit, I could just stop. Well, if they wanted to quit, they'd stop going down to the bar. If they wanted to quit, they'd stop going to the liquor store. If they wanted to quit, they would stop going over to that dope dealer's house. They just wouldn't, So they don't understand that addiction is there and is fighting me and telling me that if I don't use that, I'm going to die. And some of the time I've talked to people before, and I've had a few people tell me, well, I don't ever remember my addiction telling me I was going to die. Here's the deal. It doesn't actually sneak up in the middle of the night and talk to you. It doesn't do that. but we have such an intense desire and an intense want. We know that we've got to use it. We have to use it. We've got to have another drink. We've got to have another whatever it is that's keeping us where we are. We've got to do that. That is my limbic system whispering to my higher level brain and telling it you're about to die if you don't get this drug. So that's what that is. So it's not willpower. Addictions are not about willpower. The problems facing addicts, alcoholics, and their families are miserable. I know mine was miserable, disgusting, and infuriating. They are often hopelessly discouraging. I remember when I lost my '68 Dodge Charger. Some of y'all are too young, but have you ever seen a '68 Dodge Charger? Have you ever seen a '68 Dodge Charger that is metal flake green? '68 Dodge Charger that's metal flake green has the fuel thing up on top of the fender, and it's gleaming and beautiful. '68 Dodge Charger with a 318 engine in it. Sounds great. Won't outrun a vet. Tried to do that out on Highway 10 one day. Won't outrun a vet, but looks better than a vet. Beautiful. Beautiful. Lost it. Lost it. They came and said, yeah, yes. They came and said, hey, look, we need that back. I said, you don't need it as bad as I do. They say, well, the point is that you ain't got no money. I got some booze. That was interesting. So it said, look, these people, but to imagine that we could change if we wanted to. I have never met an alcoholic or an addict that didn't want to. I got to want to. We've all got to want to. You know, we have the want to. But having the want to is not enough, is it? Because if we had the want to and the want to was enough, guess what? We'd all be sober. We'd all be in a good place, but it's just not enough. This is a serious misunderstanding of the long-term dynamic of an addictive disorder. Anybody? If we could, we would. Just like I remember I was watching Arnold Schwarzenegger. I used to try to be a bodybuilder back in the 80s. And he was talking about how he, became all of that, who he was in his life. And they asked him what he attributed that to. And he said, the great genetics from my family. My mother and father, they gave me great genetics. I appreciate all that they did for me. And then every day I'm working out, every day. They said, well, how would you do that? He said, you know that if you could get this from a pill, everybody would be taking it. Everybody would do it. If you could get it from a pill. And so if I could get off this drug by taking a pill or just want to, I would. Right? Absolutely. So, not a lack of willpower. How about morality? Where does morality come in my addiction?
Once you get to the point where you do anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have you ever been to that point? He said there's a point you get to where you'll do anything for your drug. Because your limbic system is telling you if you don't get this, if you don't do this, you're going to die, dummy. So, we'll steal our grandma's rings and watches. I have taken my mother's jewelry. And look, we were poor like rats. We were poor like bad. And so Mama didn't have much. What she had would buy some stuff. So it got gone. Yeah.
2 days, he just walked away.
Say it again?
2 feet legs just walked away.
It did. I don't know what happened to
Magically
it.
just
magically disappeared. My sister had a piggy bank. Did the same thing.
Well, you shine.
Yeah. That piggy bank just picked up legs and took away. So, yeah. Addictions are the result of human weaknesses. They are and are defects of character. These things. That's why the big book tells us. We look and find out our own defects of character, and then humbly ask God to remove those defects of character away from it. There are moral things that are going on in our lives. Now, here's the deal. There's some stuff that we've done that's shameful, right? There's some shameful stuff I don't have to be ashamed of being an addict because it's a disease. But I've done some shameful stuff. Some pretty nasty stuff. Addiction does indeed cause bad behavior. Lying, stealing, cheating. These are done for two reasons. First off, to protect the disease. I have to lie, cheat, steal so that I can protect my disease. I have to keep it healthy. I have to keep it going. So I have to do all those things. The other thing is I need to keep it at a place where nobody else knows exactly the depth of addiction that I'm at. I'm not as bad as it seems. So why did you steal my stuff? I didn't steal your stuff. What happened to it? I have no idea. I don't know. Let me help you look for it.
No, you didn't do that.
I know where it is.
You didn't do that.
I did do that. I looked that house upside down. When that piggy bank come up missing, I crawled underneath the bed. I did everything looking for it. And I knew where it was. I knew where all that was. But still, it'll help you lie and cheat and do all of that kind of stuff to protect it. So this is a disease. Sociopaths, y'all know what a sociopath is? They commit these and worse behaviors without remorse. A sociopath. I don't care what you think about it. And look, most of us, when we got off of our drugs and alcohol, what was the first thing that hit us? Emotion. Guilt, shame, remorse. Guilt, shame, remorse. Is that a good thing? Yeah. It shows me I'm not a sociopath. It shows me I still have this humanity about me. It shows me that there is redemption for me. I can go do something better than this. I don't have to do this. I have to work through that shame, guilt, and remorse. How do we usually do that? Well, we tell ourselves self-soothing thoughts, self-soothing words. We'll tell ourselves, I'm never going to do this again. We've all got that one little fuzzy sin, that cute little nice fuzzy sin that we get all messed up in. We'll do that thing and then we'll feel that guilt, shame, and remorse. And guilt, shame, and remorse are bad. We don't want to feel like that. So we tell ourselves, I'm never going to do it again. I'm going to, next time I'm going to do something different. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep from doing it. And then suddenly I'm back at a place of calm and I'm feeling a whole lot better about things because I've lied to myself, my God, and my family about what I'm doing. So I've got all that going on. Now, there's some nasty stuff there, but I've got it back under control. I've got it back in check. And I'm making sure that I pay attention to where Mama hides the welfare check. Now we're going to do something. This is one of the biggest things, is shame, guilt, emotions, only possible with the presence of a social conscience and a code of morality. So it's not because we have no willpower. We do. It's also not because we are just morally defunct. We're just morally pieces of trash. We're just lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rut, right? We're just a piece of slime, right? It's not because of that. We've done some nasty stuff, but here's the deal. We have a disease as well. We fooled around and fell off into this thing, right? When we started doing this, we started looking, just like the first cigarette we ever smoked. Y'all remember the first cigarette you ever smoked? First cigar you ever smoked? Something like that. Oh my God, your body tore you up. Don't do it, don't do it, please don't do it. Coughing and hacking and snorting and pooting and all of that stuff, and it got you high. And, never going to do that again. And the next thing you know, you got another one stuck between your lips. Before you know it, you can't not do it. So that's what happened with this stuff. So, is addiction a disease or a moral issue? It's a disease. Now, we go through all of this stuff, and we already know all of this stuff, but the reason we go through it is because we have to get this idea of this thing being a disease snapped into our brains so that we can do something about it, because we want to get this thing in remission. Most of the people in the United States of America, now there's some of them who are not, but most of us here are raised to value self-control and self-reliance. The moment we get into an addiction, we lose both of those. So we want to be at that place of morality, but we lose that when we get into it. Addicts are viewed as untrustworthy, unreliable, irresponsible, and self-centered. Why is that?
They are.
Absolutely, because addicts are untrustworthy, unreliable, irresponsible, and self-centered. I'm dealing with my addiction. I don't care what happens to you. This ain't about you. This is about me. Yeah. So I'm way self-centered. According to this model, as a matter of awareness, repenting, and renewed determination, we can do something different. Is that right? Right. Well, if it's a moral thing, sometimes that doesn't help. How many times do you repent of that bad thing that you do? Every time you do it. Every time you do it. You go and you repent, tell God what repentance is. I'm 180 degrees. I'm never going to do that. Okay. I've repented so many times in my life. I've got it. The script is right there. I don't have to say it. I just have to think it. It pops out. And I got all that repenting done. But here's the deal. On the other hand, addiction is a chronic, relapsing, potentially fatal disorder that has complex components and is treated by behavioral modifications and, in some instances, medication. It's a disease. It's not a moral failing. In my addiction, I have failed morally. I have failed morally. You ever woke up somewhere and wondered where you were? Oh, yeah. Woke up in Germany.
I did.
You did it once? Once was enough? I had to be convinced. I did it 3 or 4 times. I had to be convinced. Woke up in Germany on the 2nd story of an apartment. Didn't know whose apartment. Didn't know where I was. And spaghetti was everywhere. Don't know why spaghetti was everywhere.
Started out on the watch.
I climbed out the window and went down the drain pipe. And I walked back to I was in the military, walked back to my base, and it was about a 5-mile walk. Walked down the train tracks so I know where I was going. And that was not a good time. And you're sitting in, I went and got in the uniform and everything, went to my office, and I'm sitting in my office wondering, what happened? No idea. So here's the deal. The moral code versus disease model are divergent. They are completely different things, but at the issue of responsibility, they converge, right? Who's responsible for all of the stuff that I've done? Yeah, all 3 of them. I'm responsible for that. It does take an act of will, many acts of will, to get down the road far enough for the brain to develop an addiction. And if you have an addiction, it's your responsibility to do something about it. That's a real big truth there that we need to get a hold of because we talk about it all the time. What's the problem? In my life, what's the problem? Me. I'm the problem. It's not my. I've heard it all. I've heard talk about my family. They weren't good role model. All of that kind of junk. Society. I didn't get all the breaks off. No, my problem is me. And if I'm the problem, what's the solution? Me. So I need to know those things. So it's your responsibility to do something about it. Sometimes that's a hard thing for me to accept, hard thing for me to do. Nobody's going to come get me by the hand and say, come on, let's go do this. Now, your counselor will do that sometimes. The counselor is going to do everything they can to help you, but it's still your responsibility to do it. Because one of the things that we know, and some of them would probably be willing because they really care about you and they care about what they're doing, but your counselor is not going home with you. My counselor told me bye. That was it, What do you mean bye? Don't expect to ever see you again. Okay. You mean you're not? I will tell you, here we call and we check on you in 3 months and then again in 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is. But we're not going home with you. So it's up to me. So, y'all have heard the old thing, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So what are these counselors here doing every day? What are they doing? What are they doing? They're leading the horse. They're leading the horse. They're dumping barrels and bushels and all kinds of water all over you. But if you don't want to drink it, they can't make you drink it, right? So it's your responsibility to do all of that stuff. Is it a lack of intelligence? Is that why we become addicted? No. Some of the smartest people you'll ever hear of are addicted. They did a longitudinal study by the National Institute of Health of medical doctors who suffer from alcoholism. There are a lot of doctors. We used to have here in Beaumont, I was working for the Best Group, and we had a program that was just for doctors and nurses. And so there's a lot of doctors and nurses right around here that are administering health practices to you, and they're alcoholics and addicts themselves. I had one that was that put you to sleep, what they call anesthesiologist, and man, he was doing really, really good. And he would keep a little bit of the stuff that shot in there, and he would shoot it in his own vein. He had a $400,000 home. He lost his home. He lost his wife. He lost his car. And he came into my program, put him through the program, put him out the other side, and they get someone who monitors them. Once they go back to work, that monitor is with them. They can't do anything without that monitor. So the monitor was with them all the time, and he slipped up anyway. The last time I had any dealings with him at all, he was riding a bicycle and living in an RV. And he can't practice. After that, you get it. They get you out of practice. You got to come see me. You go through that, and then when he gets back to it, if they fail that time, they take your license. You can't practice anymore. So here's this guy who was making $400,000 a year, and now he's making nothing. So most of these guys that suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction found that over 50% of them were in the top 33% of their medical school classes. Brilliant. Brilliant. But brilliance does not trump addiction. Why would he start doing that? What's that big drug that you use to put people to sleep? What is it? No, that's not it. I don't know. I can't think of it. Anyway, why would he do that? When he was an intern, they're working 15, 16 hours a day, and he couldn't keep up. A little bit Helped him keep going. Helped him keep going. He got through with that, and he said, I'm never going to use it again. He got his practice over here, and before you know it, just a little bit to help me keep going. Before you know it, it's the only way he could go. So how about religious beliefs? Treatment program for alcoholism and addiction that solely strengthen faith. Now look, it doesn't have as much success as other places, they say. I'm a believer. I love the Lord Jesus Christ. He's my God. I have seen him take addiction away. So look, it does work. But there's also nothing in the world wrong with a program like this that talks about addiction as a disease, right? I've seen some great things happen. But God or higher power is mentioned in 5 of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, what do y'all think this might be? This stuff that we're messing with, this addiction, what is it?
It's like cancer.
What is it?
It's a disease.
It's a disease. It's a disease. It's like cancer, it's like diabetes, it's like HIV, it's a disease like any other disease. And the fact that this is a disease, just like somebody said, I think Mr. Mills said it earlier, it can be treated. Oh, you said that too. Everybody said it can be treated. And that was one of the greatest things for me when I learned that whatever I've got that's eating me alive can be treated. I was like, okay then, let's treat this thing, right? I appreciate y'all. Y'all did a good job today. Thank you. I think we met our goal a little bit, huh? We learned a little bit about the disease of addiction, and I appreciate y'all for paying attention and all of that kind of stuff. And after a while, I'm going to come get my stuff over there at North. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'd like to compliment staff for 2 minutes.
They did, yes, much better, yeah.